The great crystal spires of Nexus Prime gleamed under the light of 3 suns, casting rainbow patterns across the peaceful streets below. Ambassador Zethkar, of the Vorthok Collective, adjusted his ceremonial robes and gazed out at the magnificent cityscape. Today marked exactly 1,000 years since the last recorded act of warfare in the galaxy. 1,000 years of perfect peace. The Galactic Concordat had achieved what many thought impossible. Over 200 different species lived and worked together in harmony. No battles, no conquests, no bloodshed. The ancient ways of violence had been replaced by something far more civilized. The arbitration protocols. Every dispute, every disagreement, every conflict was settled through careful discussion and negotiation. Zethkar walked through the memorial gardens, where holographic displays showed the dark times before the Concordat. Images of burning worlds and shattered fleets flickered in the air, reminders of why the old ways had to end. Children from dozens of different species played together nearby, their laughter echoing off the memorial walls. They would never know the horror of war. The secret of the Concordat's success was simple but effective. Any species that showed aggressive tendencies was immediately quarantined, cut off from trade, technology, and contact with the civilized galaxy. These dangerous races would either learn to behave or remain isolated forever. It was not cruel. The Concordat leaders assured themselves. It was necessary. High above the city, in the Concordat Council chambers, the most important beings in the galaxy gathered for the Millennium celebration. The chamber itself was a work of art, with walls made of living crystal that changed color based on the emotional state of the speakers. Today, the walls glowed a warm golden hue, reflecting the satisfaction and pride of the assembled delegates. Chancellor Morvex, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, stood at the center podium. His species, the Cathari, had been the primary architects of the Concordat system. "My friends," he began, his voice carrying easily through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "Today, we celebrate not just peace, but the triumph of civilization over chaos." Applause filled the chamber, a strange symphony of clicks, chirps, and harmonious tones from the various species present. Some delegates had tentacles instead of hands. Others communicated through color changes in their skin, but all showed their approval. "We have proven that different species can coexist," Chancellor Morvex continued. "We have shown that diplomacy is stronger than warfare. We have built a galaxy where our children can grow up without fear." The celebration continued for hours. Delegates shared stories of successful negotiations, of conflicts resolved through patient discussion, of former enemies becoming trusted allies. The walls of the chamber grew brighter with each tale of peaceful resolution, but far from the glittering capital, in the dark reaches of the Outer Rim territories, something was stirring. Station Monitor X7 floated silently in the void, its sensors constantly scanning nearby star systems for any signs of trouble. The station was fully automated, requiring no crew. For centuries, it had detected nothing more interesting than asteroid movements and solar radiation. Today was different. The first unusual reading came at 1437 Standard Galactic Time, a brief energy spike from the direction of a quarantine system. The station's computer analyzed the data and filed it under solar activity routine. The second spike came an hour later, stronger this time, then a third dot. By evening, the readings were impossible to ignore. Whatever was happening in that quarantine system was generating energy signatures unlike anything in the station's databases. The patterns were too regular to be natural, too complex to be random. The station's automated systems sent a priority message to Concordat Central Command. Unusual activity detected in Sector 7G. Previously quarantined system showing signs of organized energy emissions. Request investigation. The message traveled through subspace communication networks, bouncing from relay station to relay station until it reached a junior analyst on Nexus Prime. The analyst, a young Thraxian named Kipter, glanced at the report while eating his evening meal. Solar flares from quarantined systems were hardly unusual. These old stars often had irregular activity. He marked the report as low priority and moved on to more pressing matters. But not everyone dismissed the readings so easily. Deep in the archives division of the Concordat Historical Institute, an elderly xenarchaeologist named Dr. Yelenith stopped her research when she saw the sector designation. Sector 7G, the Sol System. She had not heard that name spoken aloud in decades. Her long, flexible fingers moved quickly across her data terminal, pulling up classified files that few beings in the galaxy had clearance to read. The Terran Quarantine Zone, established 1,000 years ago when first contact with the species called humans had gone catastrophically wrong. The humans had been unlike any species the Concordat had ever encountered. They were not just aggressive. They were unpredictably, creatively, dangerously aggressive. They turned every tool into a weapon, every idea into a strategy, every conversation into a negotiation for advantage. After 3 disastrous diplomatic missions, the Concordat Council had made an unprecedented decision. The humans would be quarantined permanently. A massive energy barrier was constructed around their entire star system, cutting them off from the galaxy completely. The assumption was that the humans would eventually destroy themselves, as all aggressive species inevitably did when left to their own devices. Dr. Yelenith stared at the energy readings from Station Monitor X7, her specialized knowledge telling her what the young analyst had missed. These were not solar flares. They were artificial, controlled, purposeful. After 1,000 years of silence, something was stirring in the Terran Quarantine Zone, and that something was getting stronger. 1,000 years ago, Captain Sarah Chen stepped out of her ship onto the surface of Kepler 4 for 2b, humanity's first colony world beyond the Sol System. The red dirt crunched under her boots as she planted the Earth flag in the alien soil. Behind her, construction robots were already building the first human settlement among the stars. "Control, this is Chen," she spoke into her communicator. "Colony Site Alpha is operational. We're officially a spacefaring species now." The celebration was short-lived. 3 days later, massive ships appeared in the sky above the colony. They were unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Organic curves mixed with crystalline structures, powered by energies that made no sense according to Earth science. First contact with the Galactic Concordat began with hope. The aliens spoke of peace, of cooperation, of joining a great civilization that spanned the galaxy. Captain Chen and her team were invited aboard the lead ship to meet with Ambassador Veltar of the Concordat Council. The meeting room was beautiful, but strange. The walls seemed alive, shifting colors based on the emotions of those present. Ambassador Veltar was tall and elegant, with silver skin that sparkled in the soft light. His forearms moved gracefully as he spoke. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Veltar said in perfect English. "We have watched your species with great interest. You have achieved faster than light travel, remarkably quickly." Captain Chen felt proud. "Thank you. We're excited to learn about the galaxy and find our place in it." But as the days passed, the meetings grew more difficult. The Concordat representatives seemed confused and disturbed by human behavior. They did not understand why humans asked so many questions. They were shocked when Captain Chen suggested improvements to their technology. They were horrified when she casually mentioned Earth's military history. "Your species shows concerning patterns," Ambassador Veltar finally said, his skin now a worried shade of purple. "You are, unpredictable, aggressive. You see every interaction as a potential conflict." "We see every interaction as a potential opportunity," Captain Chen corrected. "That's how we learn and grow." The final meeting was a disaster. When the Concordat offered humanity junior membership with restrictions on expansion and technology development. Captain Chen laughed. "You want us to stop being human," she said. "That's not going to happen." Within a month, The Concordat Council made their decision. Humanity was too dangerous to be allowed into galactic civilization. A massive energy barrier was constructed around the entire Sol system, cutting Earth and its colonies off from the rest of the galaxy completely. The last message from Ambassador Veltar was brief. Perhaps in isolation, your species will learn wisdom. When you have abandoned your aggressive ways, we will reconsider. The barrier sealed with a flash of light that could be seen from Earth's surface. Humanity was alone, but the Concordat had made a critical mistake. They assumed that isolation would weaken humanity. Instead, it made them stronger. Cut off from galactic trade and technology, humans were forced to innovate. They developed new materials, new energy sources, new ways of thinking about science itself. Without alien help or interference, human creativity exploded in directions no one could have predicted. They built cities that floated in gas giant atmospheres. They created computers that used quantum entanglement as their basic operating principle. They learned to manipulate matter at the subatomic level, turning asteroids into paradise worlds in a matter of years. Most importantly, they never stopped asking questions now, 1,000 years later. Commander Elena Vasquez stood in the Quantum Archaeology Laboratory, deep beneath Geneva. The room hummed with energy as massive machines probed the very fabric of space and time. Elena was tall and confident, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her uniform bore the insignia of the Earth Defense Corps, humanity's military, an exploration force. Commander called Dr. James Park from his position at the main console. We're getting something. The quantum resonance patterns are stabilizing. Elena walked over to examine the display. Quantum archaeology was humanity's greatest scientific achievement. The ability to read the memory that all events left imprinted in space-time itself. By carefully analyzing quantum fluctuations, they could reconstruct what had happened in any location, even thousands of years in the past. Show me, Elena said. The display filled with images from 1,000 years ago. There was Captain Chen, standing before the Concordat representatives. There was Ambassador Veltar, his skin shifting colors as he spoke. And there, clear as day, were the words that had changed everything. Your species shows concerning patterns. You are unpredictable, aggressive. But the quantum archaeology revealed something else, something that made Elena's blood run cold. The energy signatures surrounding the Concordat ships were the same as those that powered the barrier around Sol system. The same technology, the same quantum patterns. My God, Dr. Park whispered, staring at the data. They didn't just find us by accident. They were already out there. The whole galaxy is full of life, and they deliberately cut us off. Elena's jaw tightened. For 1,000 years, humanity had believed they were alone in the universe, trapped by some cosmic accident or natural phenomenon. The truth was far worse. They had been imprisoned. How many? Elena asked quietly. Dr. Park's fingers flew over his controls, analyzing the quantum signatures. The energy patterns suggest. Commander, there are thousands of civilizations out there, maybe tens of thousands, all connected, all trading, all cooperating. Elena stared at the display showing the vast network of galactic civilization that had deliberately excluded humanity. Her people had spent a millennium in isolation, believing they were the only intelligent life in the universe. Instead, they had been prisoners in their own solar system. Get me Admiral Harrison, Elena said, her voice steady, but filled with quiet anger. It's time Earth learned the truth. The sleeping giant was beginning to wake up. The alarm bells rang throughout. Monitor Station Epsilon 7, as chief sensor operator, Klexanara stared at his display in disbelief. For the first time in 1,000 years, something had passed through the Sol system barrier. The energy readings were impossible to ignore. A small object, no larger than a shuttle, moving at incredible speed toward the heart of Concordat space. Sir, Klexonara called to his supervisor, his tentacles trembling with nervous energy. "We have a breach." Something came out of the Terran quarantine zone. Commander Tothram rushed to the sensor station, his heavy footsteps echoing in the small control room. The commander was a Borvac, built like a walking mountain with thick gray skin and small, intelligent eyes. He had served at border stations for over 2 centuries and had never seen anything like this. "That's impossible," Tothram growled. "The barrier is impenetrable. Nothing gets in or out." But the evidence was right there on the screen. A small craft, definitely of alien construction, racing through space at speeds that should have torn it apart. Its trajectory was precise and purposeful. It was heading directly for Nexus Prime, the Concordat capital. "Send an immediate alert to Central Command," Tothram ordered, and scrambled the nearest patrol fleet. "We need to intercept that thing before it reaches populated space." 3 hours later, Captain Zorindel of the Concordat cruiser Peaceful Resolution watched the mysterious craft appear on his ship's sensors. The object was small and strange, with smooth curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. It showed no weapons, signatures, but after 1,000 years of peace, Captain Zorindel was taking no chances. "Unknown vessel," he broadcast on all frequencies. "You are entering restricted Concordat space. Identify yourself immediately and prepare to be escorted to a quarantine facility." The response came back instantly, in perfect galactic standard language with no accent or translation errors. "Greetings, Captain Zorindel of the vessel Peaceful Resolution. This is probe designation Phoenix, one of the Terran Republic. I carry a message from Commander Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Corps." Captain Zorindel felt his blood run cold. Terran Republic. The humans had been quarantined for a millennium. They should barely remember how to build fire by now, assuming they had not destroyed themselves completely. "Continue your transmission," the captain said carefully. "Message begins." The probe's voice continued with calm professionalism. "This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Terran Republic. We have been aware of your quarantine for 347 years. We wish to discuss terms for humanity's reintegration into galactic society. We are prepared to negotiate in good faith and demonstrate that humanity has evolved beyond the concerns that led to our isolation." Message ends. The bridge of the Peaceful Resolution fell silent. Captain Zorindel's crew exchanged worried glances. The humans not only still existed, but they knew about the quarantine. They spoke perfect galactic standard. They had somehow learned the captain's name and his ship's designation. "How did they get that information?" whispered Lieutenant Paxton from the communications station. Captain Zorindel did not have an answer. On Nexus Prime, emergency sessions were being called at the highest levels of Concordat government. Chancellor Morvex paced back and forth in his private office, his forearms gesturing frantically as he spoke to his advisors through holographic displays. "This is unprecedented," Chancellor Morvex said, his silver skin now a worried shade of blue. The humans were supposed to either destroy themselves or become a peaceful farming society. They were not supposed to develop advanced technology, sir, interrupted Advisor Yalmouth. "Perhaps we should simply destroy the probe and pretend this never happened. The quarantine barrier is still intact. We could maintain the isolation indefinitely." "No," said another voice. Dr. Krintle, the Concordat's leading expert on quarantined species, appeared on another holographic display. "We need to study this probe first. We need to understand what the humans have become." Meanwhile, the probe continued its journey toward Nexus Prime, and Concordat scientists began their analysis. What they discovered disturbed them deeply. Dr. Velinara, the galaxy's top materials scientist, stared at her scanner readings in confusion. "The hull appears to be made of some kind of programmable matter," she reported to the Emergency Science Committee. "It can change its molecular structure at will. One moment it's as hard as diamond, the next it flows like liquid. That's impossible. protested Dr. Catherine. Programmable matter is purely theoretical. The energy requirements alone would be enormous. The propulsion system is even stranger, added Chief Engineer Moxbill. It doesn't use any known form of energy. The drive system seems to manipulate space-time itself, folding distances rather than traveling through them. But the most disturbing discovery came from Dr. Zephyra, a quantum physicist who had been studying the probe's energy signature. "Colleagues," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I believe this probe exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It's not just in our space, it's in parallel realities as well." The committee fell silent. Multidimensional technology was beyond even the most advanced Concordat science. "How is that possible?" Chancellor Morvex demanded when the report reached his office. Dr. Zephyrus' image flickered on his holographic display. "Sir, I can only theorize that isolation forced the humans to develop entirely new approaches to physics. Without our guidance, they went in directions we never considered. As the days passed, more committees were formed. The committee to study the human situation, the committee to analyze the committee reports, the committee to form new committees when needed. The Concordat's government was designed for careful, slow decision-making. It was not built for crises. The probe waited patiently outside Nexus Prime's orbital defenses, neither threatening nor retreating. It simply existed, a small but undeniable proof that humanity had not only survived their imprisonment, but had grown into something the galaxy had never seen before. In her laboratory on Earth, Commander Elena Vasquez watched the probe's status reports and smiled. The test was working perfectly. Now it was time to see if the galaxy was ready for what humanity had become. The negotiations had dragged on for 6 long months. In the Great Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime, representatives from across the galaxy gathered to discuss what they now called the human question. The walls of the chamber, usually golden with satisfaction, had turned a muddy brown color, reflecting the frustration and uncertainty of the delegates. Ambassador Veltar, now much older than he had been 1,000 years ago, stood at the central podium. His silver skin had dulled with age, and his movements were slower, but his voice still carried authority. "The Concordat Council has reached a decision regarding the Terran situation," he announced, the human probe still waiting patiently outside. The planet's defenses received the transmission first. The message was formal and carefully worded, as all Concordat communications were. To the representatives of the Terran Republic, Veltar's recorded message began. "After careful consideration, the Concordat offers humanity observer status within our galactic community. You will be permitted to maintain your current territory and engage in limited trade. However, for the safety of all galactic citizens, certain restrictions must apply. Human expansion beyond your current system is forbidden. Military development must be supervised by Concordat inspectors. All new technologies must be reviewed and approved before implementation." The probe transmitted the message back to Earth through quantum entanglement channels, delivering it instantly across the 1,000 light-years that separated them from home. In the command center beneath Geneva, Grand Admiral Elena Vasquez, recently promoted after the probe's successful mission, read the Concordat's terms with growing anger. "Observer status," she said to her staff, her voice cold. "They want us to be pets in a zoo." Admiral Chen, her second-in-command and descendant of the original Captain Chen, shook his head. "They're offering us nothing. We can exist, but we can't live. We can't grow. We can't be human." Elena drafted the reply herself. It was short and direct, very different from the flowery diplomatic language the Concordat preferred. "To the Galactic Concordat, humanity appreciates your offer, but must respectfully decline. We seek full membership as equals, or we will make our own way among the stars. We have done so for 1,000 years, and can continue to do so." The response sent shockwaves through the Concordat leadership. No species had ever rejected their generous offer of observer status. It was unprecedented. It was disturbing. It was, many delegates whispered, dangerously aggressive. Chancellor Morvex called emergency session after emergency session. They refuse our reasonable terms, he told the assembled representatives. They demand full rights without proving they deserve them. This confirms our original assessment. Humans are too aggressive for civilized society. Perhaps, suggested Advisor Krimtel nervously, we should consider their request. They have shown remarkable technological advancement. Absolutely not, Chancellor Morvex replied firmly. If we give in to their demands, other species might start making similar requests. The stability of our entire civilization depends on maintaining proper order. As weeks turned into months, the human probe continued to wait outside Nexus Prime. Its presence had become a symbol of the crisis, dividing the Concordat. Some delegates wanted to find a compromise. Others insisted that humanity must accept their place or remain in quarantine forever. The decision came during a particularly heated session when Delegate Vorthok of the Militant Suppression faction stood up to speak. This has gone on long enough, he declared, his red skin glowing with anger. The humans are testing our resolve. If we show weakness now, it will encourage other aggressive species to challenge our authority. Within hours, the vote was taken. The probe would be destroyed as a demonstration of Concordat resolve. The official report would list the cause as a routine system malfunction. Admiral Keshanira of the Concordat Defense Fleet carried out the order personally. Her ship, the Eternal Peace, approached the human probe with weapons charged. This is for the good of galactic stability, she told herself as she gave the firing command. The probe made no attempt to flee or defend itself. It simply transmitted one final message before the energy beams tore it apart. Message received and understood. Humanity will respond appropriately. On Earth, Alina Vasquez watched the probe's destruction in real time through the quantum entanglement link. The feed showed the explosion from the probe's perspective. A brief flash of light, then nothing. Around her, the command center fell silent. They destroyed our diplomat, Admiral Chen said quietly. They pretended it was an accident, but they murdered our ambassador. Alina nodded slowly. For 6 months, she had hoped for a peaceful solution. She had genuinely wanted humanity to join galactic civilization as partners and friends. That dream died with the probe. Send the message to all human worlds, Alina ordered. Emergency session of the Republic Council. We're voting on Barrier Protocol 7. The vote was held 3 days later, with representatives from every human colony participating through quantum communication. The debate was brief. The decision was unanimous. Alina stood before the combined assemblies of human space. Her image, transmitted to billions of people across dozens of worlds. Behind her, the flags of the Terran Republic and United Earth flew side by side. My fellow humans, she began, her voice carrying to the furthest corners of human civilization. For 1,000 years, we have been prisoners in our own galaxy. We have knocked politely on the door of galactic society and asked to be let in. We have offered friendship and been given insults. We have sent diplomats and watched them be murdered. She paused, letting her words sink in. Today, that ends. The Galactic Concordat has shown us who they truly are. They are not the peaceful civilization they pretend to be. They are bullies who maintain order through fear and oppression. Elena's voice grew stronger. Today, we activate Barrier Protocol 7. We take our place among the stars, not as supplicants, begging for scraps, but as equals, claiming our birthright. The galaxy will learn what humanity has become, and they will learn it on our terms. Across human space, fleets began to move. The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and it was very, very angry. The Concordat Defense Fleet assembled at the edge of the Sol System, ready for humanity's desperate attack. Admiral Keshanira commanded over 3,000 ships, the largest military force the galaxy had seen in centuries. Her officers were nervous. They had trained for peacekeeping missions, not actual warfare. Sensors detect human ships approaching, reported Lieutenant Vextel from his station. Estimated count. Admiral, there are only 50 vessels. Admiral, Kashanira frowned. 50 ships against 3,000. Either the humans were completely insane, or they had some trick planned. All ships, maintain defensive positions. Do not fire, unless fired upon. The human fleet approached slowly, their ships unlike anything in Concordat databases. They moved smoothly through space, their hulls seeming to shift and flow like living things. At the head of the formation flew a massive vessel that broadcast a simple message on all frequencies. "This is Grand Admiral Alina Vasquez, of the Terran Republic," came the transmission. "We come not as conquerors, but as liberators. To all Concordat personnel who can hear this message, you have been lied to for 1,000 years. Your leaders have kept you in chains of ignorance and fear. Today, we offer you freedom." Admiral Kashanira laughed bitterly. Typical human arrogance. Opened fire on the lead ship. But before she could give the order, something extraordinary happened. The human fleet split apart, each ship heading toward a different Concordat vessel. Instead of weapons, they deployed what looked like docking tubes. "Admiral," called her communications officer in confusion. "The humans are requesting permission to board. They say they have gifts for our crews." "Gifts? This is warfare, not a birthday party. All ships, destroy those boarding tubes." But many Concordat captains hesitated. The humans were not attacking. They were not even defending themselves. They were simply ... waiting. Captain Morix of the cruiser Silent Harmony made the decision that changed everything. "This is Captain Morix, to the human vessel, approaching my ship. What kind of gifts are you talking about?" The response came from a cheerful human voice. "Medical supplies that can cure the genetic plague affecting your species. Engineering tools that will make your ship run twice as efficiently. And job offers that pay 10 times what the Concordat gives you." Captain Morix's crew exchanged glances. The genetic plague had been killing their people for generations. Concordat medicine could slow it down but never cure it. And the pay was certainly terrible. They barely earned enough to support their families. "Permission granted for boarding," Captain Morix said, ignoring Admiral Kashanira's spurious commands to the contrary. The human boarding party consisted of just 3 people, a doctor, an engineer, and a diplomat. They came with no weapons, carrying, instead, medical scanners, technical equipment, and employment contracts. Dr. Sarah Kim examined Captain Morix's first officer, who suffered from the genetic plague. "The problem is in your cellular quantum structure," she explained in simple terms. "Your DNA repair mechanisms are out of sync with your quantum field. We can fix this in about an hour." While the doctor worked, Engineer Tom Chen looked at the ship's power systems. "You're running at about 30% efficiency," he told the ship's chief engineer. "Your energy converters are working against each other instead of together. We can show you how to modify them." The diplomat, Maria Santos, presented Captain Morix with a simple offer. "The Terran Republic needs experienced ship captains. We'll pay you 10 times your current salary, give you a better ship, and let you explore parts of the galaxy the Concordat has kept hidden from you." Within an hour, Captain Morix watched his first officer stand up, completely cured of the plague that should have killed him within a year. His ship's engines were running smoother and faster than ever before, and the employment contract promised him opportunities he had only dreamed of. "Admiro Kaznita." Captain Morix broadcast to the fleet commander. "I am resigning from Concordat service. My crew and I are joining the Terran Republic." The news spread like wildfire through the Concordat fleet. Ship after ship reported the same thing. The humans were not attacking, they were recruiting. They were not destroying Concordat technology, they were improving it. They were not demanding surrender, they were offering something better. On the planet Zarian Prime, the Zephyrian people had struggled with water shortages for centuries. Their world was mostly desert, and the Concordat solution was to import expensive water from other systems. When human ships arrived, they brought something different: matter transmutation technology. Any element can become any other element, explained human engineer Lisa Park to the amazed Zephyrian leaders. We can turn sand into water, rocks into food, garbage into building materials. Your resource problems are over. Within hours, Zarian Prime had more fresh water than they had seen in generations. The Zephyrian Council voted unanimously to leave the Concordat and join the Terran Republic. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The Kethler species, who had suffered from an incurable nerve disease, found themselves completely healed by human quantum medicine. The Mordock civilization, trapped on their polluted homeworld, watched in wonder as human environmental technology cleaned their air and water in days. On Nexus Prime, Chancellor Morvex watched his carefully ordered galaxy fall apart in real time. Species after species was broadcasting the same message. They were leaving the Concordat to join humanity. This is impossible, he told his advisors, his silver skin now a sickly gray color. We gave them order, we gave them peace, we gave them stability, but we never gave them hope, said Dr. Yeleninth quietly. The elderly xenarchaeologist had been watching the human broadcasts with growing amazement. We never gave them the chance to grow, to explore, to become more than they were. Chancellor Morvex collapsed into his chair as another report came in. The Vorthok Collective, one of the Concordat's founding members, had just announced their intention to join the Terran Republic. Within 72 hours of the human attack, 17 major species had formally left the Concordat. Dozens more were seriously considering it. The 1,000-year-old galactic government was dissolving not through conquest, but through choice. 6 months later, Elena Vasquez stood in what had once been the Concordat Council chambers on Nexus Prime. The walls, no longer constrained by diplomatic protocol, blazed with colors that had never been seen before, the bright hues of excitement, discovery, and genuine cooperation. The chamber was fuller than it had ever been. Representatives from hundreds of species worked together on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. They were planning expeditions to unexplored galaxies, developing technologies that seemed like magic, solving problems that had plagued civilizations for millennia. The funny thing, Alina said to former Chancellor Morvex, who had become the Republic's new Minister of Transition, is that we never wanted to destroy the Concordat, we just wanted to make it better. Morvex nodded, his skin now showing colors of curiosity and hope that he had not felt in centuries. We thought peace meant the absence of conflict. You showed us that true peace comes from the presence of opportunity. Outside the chamber's great windows, ships from across the galaxy worked together, not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. Humanity's counterattack had not destroyed galactic civilization, it had transformed it into something greater than anyone had imagined possible. The age of enforced peace was over. The age of chosen cooperation had begun.